Everything is meaningless, says the teacher. Completely meaningless. If you're reading through the book of Ecclesiastes for the first time, then you're probably wondering, oh, wow, that is a harsh statement to make. And I don't think everything is meaningless. And as you read through it, you've probably felt like it's quite pessimistic or negative. I mean, after all, as Christians, aren't we supposed to be happy, joyful people, not thinking that everything in life is meaningless? And rarely am I the type of person to say that we should go look at the original language. And here's why I'm going to preface that. Is because it would be like if I went into a chef's kitchen, having never really cooked anything outside of ramen noodles from the packet before, and then started telling him how to do his job better. It seems quite unwise to even make an assumption that I should be able to be in the kitchen in the first place. And in the same way with translations. People have dedicated their entire lives to translating not just Hebrew to English or Greek to Hebrew, but they've studied parts of the translations. For example, I'm reading now the NLT, the New Living Translation, which is by the way, my favorite translation to read out of if you're a new Christian. And the guy who translated the book of Ecclesiastes, he has studied the wisdom literature, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, for his whole career. He spent his life studying this book alone. And then he's leading a team of other people that have also studied Old Testament Hebrew in order to translate it into English for their careers. And they translate it to this. But I do think there is some wisdom that can be found by looking at the original word in Hebrew. It's hevel, or vapor, smoke. The Bible Project actually does a really cool study on it. But essentially, what it's saying here is that it is going to disappear. It's going to dissipate. You think about it, whenever I drive past a lake on an early Saturday morning and there's a thick fog over it, I can come back in an hour once the sun comes up and it will be gone. It's hevel. It's going to disappear. And that's what the book of Ecclesiastes is trying to warn us. It's trying to warn us about the things in our lives that we pursue that we think will give us meaning, ultimately don't. Now, Ecclesiastes is written by an author that's talking about a teacher. So if you read the first verse, it says, "These words of the teacher, King David's son, who ruled in Jerusalem." Now, many people think this is Solomon. I sit in that camp, but other people think it could be another one of David's sons, like his grandson, great-grandson, and so on, that actually wrote this. And then at the end of Ecclesiastes, we get the author's summary of the book. But most of the words are from this teacher. And what the teacher is trying to show us here is that he's done it all. He's been there and done that. In chapter 2, it says, "I said to myself, come on, let's try pleasure, look for the good things in life. But I found that this too was meaningless." Everything that you want to accomplish, this guy's done. Being rich, getting married, having success, having people look at you, gaining wisdom. He's been there and done that. But the problem is, it's like hevel, it's smoke, it's vapor. Every time that he thought this next thing will give me satisfaction, it ended up not. And this is what is leading him here. I personally believe that this was written around the end of Solomon's reign after he's accomplished pretty much everything he wants to accomplish, but he's sitting back and saying, man, what was it all for? I'm still not satisfied. And why I love the book of Ecclesiastes is because it's a warning against us not following Christ in our lives. You know, Jesus says that his burden is light and his yoke is easy to carry. But he also says stuff like, pick up your cross and follow me. So it doesn't really seem to blend well. But in the book of Proverbs, it tells us that godliness plus contentment is great gain. What I think Ecclesiastes is trying to teach us here is that we should be searching for how we can be content in what Christ has already given us, instead of constantly desiring to get to the next level of success or the next level of contentment. By thinking, if I only get this, then I'll be satisfied. But our true satisfaction should come in our love of Christ. It says this in Ecclesiastes 6:9, "Enjoy what you have rather than desiring what you don't have. Just dreaming about nice things is meaningless, like chasing the wind." So if you're sitting here thinking, man, I've never just been satisfied with what God has given me, or maybe you don't have a relationship with Christ. There was a time in my life when I didn't know who Jesus was personally, when I didn't truly understand that. And it took someone explaining to me that I had messed up, that I had done wrong things. And this permitted me from being a part of God's kingdom here on earth. See, God says in Matthew 1:15, the promises of God have come to pass. The kingdom of heaven is near, so we should repent and believe the gospel. So it's pretty simple. We start off by realizing that we're a sinner. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And so we were walking away from God. And then we need to stop, turn around, and start to pursue him, accepting his gift of forgiveness and repenting and turning back to him in our life. And that's what Ecclesiastes is trying to teach us here, is that everything in life outside of pursuing God and loving him is, at the end of the day, completely meaningless.